Hello, fellow fantasy sports junkies. It is time again for MFSN's Waiver Wire show. We're here to tell you all the great pickups for the week. I'm here with Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifter, and as always, Ross the Boss.
I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk Waiver Wire with you, cowboy.
I always almost fall for the pause. Okay, guys, remember our rule is these are players that are owned in less than 50% of Yahoo leagues. So that's the people we're talking about. If you don't hear us talking about picking up Julio Jones, you know why. Guys, we're going to start with quarterbacks as we always do. Who's your number one? Let's go with Ross.
My number one this week, he's coming back off an injury. I think he's in like less than like 20% or 15%. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. He'll be back supposedly next week.
Janine Garofalo.
Janine Garofalo. He's back. I say his name almost every week because he never can get close to 50%. Is Teddy Bridgewater. I watched him play exclusively.
You are all
last
over
week.
Bridgewater.
I'll give you props. He had his best game of the season.
He's had every game. He's have over 200 yards and over 200 yards every game.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm just saying
he's also wait. He's also had over 100 yards every game.
And another guy that I mention every week is Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's great. He's 300 plus every week. He's
my number one. He's
your number one. I mean, I like him a lot. I just like Jimmy coming back off an injury. That's all. I mean, that's the reason I have him. And I love his weapons. His weapons are back. I mean, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he was unbelievable on Sunday, Arizona State, and he was great. And he has weapons. So,
guys, I got to say, I feel like I'm in like bizarro world right now because you're touting, the boring, stable veteran quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm about to tell you that my top guy actually is Justin Herbert. And I know you guys have been talking about rookies constantly. Here's the thing. He's thrown for at least 290 yards in 3 straight games. Now, we don't know if he's actually even going to start this week because Anthony Lynn, we talked about this last week, there's a good chance that the old school coach, especially given the circumstances of why Tyrod hasn't been playing lately, the team doctor puncturing his lung. I think there is a good chance that Tyrod gets that job back. But there's a ton of great quarterback streamers available this week. So if I was making my claims right now, what I'd do is I'd grab Herbert, see what happens. If he ends up not starting, you can always just drop him and pick up, somebody like, Kirk Cousins or Phillip Rivers or my boy
I totally
Daniel
agree
Jones.
with you. I totally agree with you, but I'm the one who's been talking about Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, is that?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't even remember. I've been talking about him for weeks, and I have him as number 2. But Gardner Minshew is a different story. He's just a clear starter, and there's no questions about him.
Well, except when people the week everyone relied on him was that Thursday night game, against the Dolphins, and he put up a big turd burger in that one. So
I
don't know.
Everybody's going to have a bad game.
300 yards.
Let's be honest about Gardner Minshew, guys. He's not going to be a smooth ride. He's not going to be consistent. He's going to have some great games, but I would have trouble trusting him as like a every week quarterback for my team. I feel like it's more matchup dependent. If he's
but these guys were mentioning,
and this week he's playing Houston. I mean, it's not the greatest matchup.
It's not the greatest matchup, and these guys we're mentioning are not going to be starting on your team. These guys will be on your bench, probably starting for like a bye week for one of your star quarterbacks.
Okay, but if you're talking about Superflex league, maybe they will.
Superflex, yes, of course.
Superflex, these guys are all owned already.
I agree.
Herbert, I think, has a chance to actually be a QB1 if he can just nail down that job and keep performing.
I told you.
And then the other guy, and the other guy I'm going to mention. Do I even need to say?
Well,
his
of
name?
course,
Sam
here
Donald.
It comes.
No,
no, it's Tannehill,
my friend. Ryan Tannehill still under 50% owned.
I have no idea where he's
I think
playing.
with last game getting canceled, I think he got dropped a bit and got back under 50% again. So, if you're looking for a quarterback that you can actually reliably use all season, he's the best bet.
Yeah, but beware the Titans. Beware the Titans. Not remember the Titans. Beware the Titans. Beware, I said, because they have 16 players in organization people that have COVID. So I don't know when they're going to be back. I mean, they could be
actually
gone.
had no new COVID.
Yesterday they did. They had yesterday.
No, wait, listen, today none.
Read my lips. No new COVID.
If they have none tomorrow, they're reopening the facility on Wednesday, and they'll be on track to play.
Okay.
next weekend.
Okay.
All right, but there is still some risk. I think Tanil, I have him in third because he's clearly that much better than all the rest of the quarterbacks. Then you got a big mix of Derek Carr. Do you pick up Fitzmagic? He's playing
Derek
pretty
Carr's
well,
been playing really well.
Derek Carr's stats are great.
He's got a bad matchup at Kansas City. I don't really want any part of that.
No, I don't like that.
Not this week, but I said last week it's time to start picking him up.
No,
I think it's time to move on to running backs because there's not that much here.
Well, let's talk running backs. I mean, I'm going to look at your jersey and I'm saying, Nick Chubb went down. Who's taking his place? Is it Ernest Johnson from Central Florida? Yes.
Oh, Ernest.
No,
Ernest goes to the end zone.
So I have Ernest number one. I like Lindley. Is it Lindsay?
Philip Lindsay.
Philip Lindsay?
Yep. I like Philip a lot. He's coming back. I like him a lot.
He's not under 50%.
Yeah, he's under 50%. I know Gordon had a great game last week.
Everybody calls Patrick Mahomes Pat Mahomes. Why does no one say Phil Lindsay? It just doesn't have the same ring, does it?
I don't know.
Pick up Phil Lindsay.
Philip, University of Colorado product. He had over 1,000 yards 2 years ago. I mean,
and the whole bad thing about two first names doesn't count if one is a male name and one's a female name. Then it's okay.
So that being said, I like him a lot, and I like the kid Chase Edmonds from Arizona.
There you go.
I think Drake's going to be benched. I mean, he isn't in anything all year. It's kind of sad. I think Chase Edmonds.
All of us thought he was going to be a breakout last week, and
I have Chase Edmonds as my number one pick of the week. And hot take on this, you haven't even mentioned this guy yet, but Damian Harris is the guy.
I have him third.
I think everyone's going to be rushing to the waiver wire to add Damian Harris now because he just went over 100 yards on the Monday night game tonight.
I already have him on my waiver wire.
Not me, man.
I think
I'll tell you why not.
I think Chase Edmonds is going to be better than Damian Harris. That's what I'm saying because the reality of the situation is that Patriots situation, we know Rex Burkhead he's getting the goal line work. James White was back this week, and he was very involved in the passing game. So really, Harris, how many weeks are we going to really be able to rely on him to get 20
I'm not going to
rushes?
trust Bill Belichick with a running back.
I never trust him with running backs. He screws me every year with running backs.
I do think Harris should be picked up because he's
I'll pick him up, but he won't be my first. Is going to be
no. I'm all for him getting picked up. I just want someone else to do it.
My first waiver wire is going to be Ernest. And my last one is Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson is my third, but I have Ernest Johnson first. Also, here's the really frustrating thing: I almost picked him up in my sleeper league before this week because
you idiot! You should have done it.
So deep, and now I have to bid like $33 for it.
Guys, you're going overboard on Ernest. I think. I mean, here's the thing: Kareem Hunt came into last week's game with a groin injury, so he was limited. I don't think he got as much work as he normally would. He's going to be the
but they like two running backs.
They like two running backs.
But Ernest is going to be the lesser half of that. He's going to be looking at maybe 10 touches a week, and they're not going to be playing the Cowboys every week. His talent level is to be seen. He looked good last week against Dallas, but no. Chase Edmonds is the player where Drake got banged up. It sounds like he's going to be fine, but Drake hasn't been good. He's averaging 3.8 yards per carry, and that offense has been stagnant. But we saw
you just convinced me.
We saw what they did last season.
You just convinced me. Chase Edmonds should go number one because he has more of a chance of being the difference maker for a longer period of time.
He could be the league winner. Exactly.
Yeah, but listen. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you pick up Ernest Johnson. You got to pick him up. One.
You think I will?
No, I got him fourth. I'm going
so.
Chase Edmonds 1, Damian Harris 2 because of the opportunity.
Okay.
Damian
Justin
Harris
Jackson,
is ninth.
Justin Jackson is number 3. I think with Ekeler out 4 to 6 weeks here, Josh Kelly is in the lead. We've been banging the drum for Joshua Kelly.
No more Joshua Kelly, please. No more.
No. We have to talk about this, my friend. So listen, Joshua Kelly was really great the first couple weeks. He was not so great last week. Horrible. And that job is really up for grabs. And Justin Jackson actually has averaged almost 5 yards per carry in his limited opportunity the last couple seasons. So I kind of feel like that situation could go either way. And, they're going to play
as long as he doesn't get his lung punctured. You got to watch out for that, man.
I think he's going to be an interesting flex option.
Do you think the players in San the players for the Chargers just stay away from the team doctor now? He goes,
I think the players in the Chargers have moved to San Diego to stay away from the doctor. That's what happened.
Do you think he's just like, I don't want to see that guy?
So I moved Chase Edmonds up to number 1 because I think Andrew convinced me. I still have Ernest Johnson too. My third is Justin Jackson, but my fourth hasn't even been mentioned yet. It's Malcolm Brown. He's got huge upside. I know the Rams are in this like weird rotation. You don't know who's going to do what, but he broke out at one point. I think compared to the other options on there, he's the way to go with number 4.
My problem, I tweeted about this this week. It's the Ravens and the Rams. They're just two teams that have so much fantasy potential in their ability to run the ball, but they're devoted to this three-headed monster committee. And, that was, without Cam Akers around. Cam Akers is going to be back, and then it's going to get even messier because he's the one that they just invested a lot of draft capital in. They invested a lot of draft capital in Darrell Henderson last season. I like Malcolm Brown. I have got him in my dynasty league. He's an okay fill-in in a deeper league when you need someone to put in there, but I can't really see a scenario where he runs away with that job. I just don't see it.
Me either. I would stay away from any Ram running back right now. I would probably stay away from just because I don't know what.
Well, you could get Cam Akers for cheap, and he's the guy who could really.
I like Cam,
but in dynasty you got to be.
He's not 100%.
Well, in dynasty for sure. All right, my number 5. Is another guy that I picked up. And I should have picked up Ernest Johnson instead, but I picked up Reggie Bonifant. He, Mike Davis doesn't have that cemented at all, and it's a short-term rental. I know McCaffrey's coming back.
I hate to pour cold water on you, Dan, but he just got sent back to the practice squad, so I don't think.
Sucker!
They do that all the time.
I don't think he's even going to
coming
be
back up
next week. We'll see.
He's coming back up.
They
already did that once.
Yeah, and the running back, I forgot his name. You got to help me, Andrew. The backup for Pittsburgh.
Benny Snell or McFarland?
Rocky Blyer.
Anthony McFarland.
McFarland. That's it.
McFarland.
I kind of like him too. I think he's going to start playing a lot more over. I think he'll be like the second string coming off the bench now.
Yeah, but the backup doesn't play at all in Tomlin's offense.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just got to wait for the next Connor injury, which is always around the
corner.
But he is the kind of guy that you pick up to hope for a season-winning kind of pickup.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, guys. That's the other thing. Rather than going, Ernest Johnson, he ran for 95 yards, so you're gonna have to use a bunch of fab to get him. I would rather just duck out of that bidding war and pick up one of these high upside, the guys we've talked about before, Alexander Madison or Tony Pollard. Chase Edmonds for sure, number 1. But even these other guys who haven't really,
I have Madison
had as much
6.
of a clear path to the starting job. They're one injury away from having a ton of value. So I'd rather stash those guys on my bench if it's not someone that needs to be in my starting lineup.
I think if it's a guy who's going to take over on a great team, that's what you go for. Go for it, Ross.
Brian Hill, you mentioned last week.
He's another one.
I know Atlanta, their defense is bad, so they don't run the ball that much. But
he can catch passes.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad one to pick up if you have a deep league and you need a running back just in case.
We're recording this in the middle of their game right now, but I got to say their offense does look like a complete train wreck right now. Maybe by the end of the second half, I'll look dumb for saying that, but.
Okay, should we talk about wide receivers?
Yeah, let's talk about wide receivers.
It's time.
Okay,
it's time.
so I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. I personally am not enthralled with any one wide receiver this week. It's just kind of more of the same. This, unlike other positions, I feel like there's usually someone you can really have confidence in. In wide receiver, it's really more flavor of the month, flavor of the week. But I'm going for my number 1 pick. I'm going with the rookie from Clemson for the Cincinnati Bengals, T. Higgins. They've really, you guys know I was high on AJ Green, and I still think.
Are we cutting AJ Green now? That's the question.
Okay, so it depends on your league. I did just cut him in one league because it's a league that it's a really shallow league, and there's a lot of good wide receivers on the waiver wire. So I don't think you need to hold on to him in that sort of situation.
It's a slippery slope, my friend.
No, I still think he's getting the targets. He could factor in later, but it does seem like they're making a concerted effort right now to get T. Higgins involved. And given that he's got Joe Burrow's just developing this rapport with his receivers, it seems like he's got a good connection going with Higgins right now. And Higgins is obviously incredibly talented. He was a very, early second round pick. So I just like him in terms of it's, I can't promise that he's going to be great. It depends, but he's got the ability. You can see a path to him actually being like a consistent wide receiver 2 by the end of the season, which most guys out on the waiver wire, I don't think you can say that about.
I like Higgins. I have him at number 3. Ross,
I have Higgins
who's your number
at
1?
4. I have Tanquan. I have I don't even know how to say his name. Tanquan.
It's just say he's Tanquan
Smith.
Tanquan Smith.
Is that how you say it?
Also known as Tanquan.
Tanquan Smith. So I like Tanquan Smith. I know Thomas is coming back, but I still I just like how he's been like developing as their second receiver.
It'll be interesting to see how.
But you have him as number one.
I have him number one this week. If I had to pick up one receiver this week that was under 50%, it'd be Mr. Smith.
I mean, I could understand it for a 1 week rental. Go ahead.
My number 2 pick is Scotty Miller.
Scotty Miller's on my list.
He's my number one.
Yeah,
Scotty Miller's number
because
2.
I think that Godwin's probably going to be out at least 1 or 2 more weeks. Mike Evans is banged up. Tom Brady is, even at 40 whatever, he's still got it going. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Miller, and he's got that connection with Brady. There were glowing reports in the preseason about them having a good connection, and we've seen it now, back-to-back games with over 80 yards receiving. He's a player that, is a good possession guy, but he can also make plays down the field. So I like him a lot as my third pick. And also you got
to remember OJ Howard is out for the year. Which is huge.
Yeah, it's a shame because he was finally putting it together.
And we'll talk about tight ends in a little bit, but with him gone, Scotty Miller is going to be getting more targets at least.
This is why I have Scotty Miller number one. He's playing with a good quarterback. He's got a good opportunity, and his spot in the offense is not going to evaporate, unlike Tanquan or Traquan.
I'm worried about Traquan when Michael Thomas comes back.
Another guy just came back from injury. Plays for the Cardinals. His name's Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
And Christian went to Texas A&M. He great hands.
I have him number 3 on my list, by the way. I kind of feel like after Higgins and Scotty Miller, for me, there's kind of a drop off, and then you're just into hope and a prayer. I feel like Christian Kirk has a lot of upside. My 4th pick is even more hope and a prayer, and that's McCall Hardman. I just think he's one injury away from being huge. If Tyreek Hill pulls a hamstring, or if Sammy Watkins gets hurt again, which he tends to, I think Hardman
Hardman's
can
great.
jump into wide receiver 2.
He's a great upside pick.
Yeah.
He's not as fast as Hill, but he's fast. He's one of these guys. He's a speed burner. He's great. The other guy I have on my list, I know you're going to laugh at me, he's a New York Jet, is Jeff Smith. He just, he had a lot of yards.
Somehow I knew you were going to bring up Jeff Smith. Keep going.
Again, if you need a receiver, I hate taking a Jet, but if you're desperate, and it's Sunday morning, 9:58, and you're all of a sudden your receiver's not playing, and you see Jeff Smith, you press that button and you get Jeff Smith and you start him because he'll get like 7-8 targets. I think. He's probably.
He did. Yeah, he was involved.
He's probably good for the targets, but I think what happened is he got 7 or 8 targets and he got 34 yards. I could see that happening with the Jets.
Also, Darnold might miss some time, by the way, which is not good for an offense that already has some problems.
I don't know. Yeah. Flacco coming in could be about.
I like Flacco coming in.
Oh my God, what are you guys talking about?
All right, there's much more upside with Darnold, but okay, I'm going to mention a guy that I've not heard anybody talk about, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like Tim Patrick has a role in that offense, and he had some rapport with Rippon. So I
watched him play. I like what I saw. He's not didn't make my list this week, but again, if you're desperate,
he's a back end
guy.
Yeah,
for me, what the situation is basically, if I don't get Higgins or I don't get Scotty Miller, I'm looking at, do I need a guy that I am going to put right into my lineup? If I do, I'm looking at guys like Cole Beasley and Hunter Renfrow, who I think have a very high floor, but not a huge ceiling. And if I need that, then that's the direction I'll go. But if I don't need to put the person in my lineup and I just want to stash someone to see if their value explodes, that's where I'm going Christian Kirk or McCall Hardman and just waiting to see how that plays out.
That's a good point. It really depends on what it is that you need. You have to think about who you already have. If you already have a guy who's a low end guy, do you need a Tim Patrick? Do you need a Laviska Shenault? I think I'm saying that name right. But no, you probably need a guy more like Tanquan Smith who can put up big numbers, or McCall Hardman, who, if they get the right break. It's interesting. Andrew, I assume you have Tanquan Smith higher than McCall Hardman, but maybe not.
I actually don't, because I don't think Tanquan Smith has the level of upside that McCall Hardman has. I think I think Michael Thomas will be back, and he has been hurt, but he's, for the most part, has been very durable over his career. That was a real fluke injury. I could see Smith, I'll be watching the snaps really closely between Smith and Emmanuel Sanders, because I do think there's a chance that Smith overtakes Sanders on the depth chart, he might be a better player at this stage of their respective careers. And if that happens, then I do think Smith has some appeal there. But
keep in mind he's not talking Jeff Smith. That's not Jeff Smith.
No, not Jeff. Traquan, or as Ross would say, Tanquan.
All right, guys, let's move to tight ends.
Yeah.
Let's do tight ends. That didn't sound good. Okay. I think the number one tight end pretty much should always be whoever is playing the Eagles. And he was my number one guy last week anyway. He probably got cut by a lot of teams because of the COVID thing. Eric Ebron is my number one tight end. I will say this, though. Dalton Schultz somehow is only owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is. But Dan, the thing that's better about who's playing the Eagles is the Eagle himself. And I know you have to be patient on this one, but Dallas Goddard is now under 50% owned. And if
I own him in both of my leagues.
If
so.
you're willing to wait he's supposed to be out 3 weeks. But okay. I mean, once he's back, I think he's going to be an every week top 10 tight end because Zach Ertz just is over the hill, man.
No, I agree. And I called this.
Yeah, and I said it too. I said Zach Ertz was, on the contract year, and the contract negotiations broke down because the Eagles don't want to invest in him long term. They see he's dropping off. I think Goddard's worth waiting for. I agree with you. If you need a player right away, the guy I'd go with is Ebron. I think he's in the best offense. He's got the red zone ability. He's being schemed to get the ball. His numbers have gradually been going up each week, and I think his ownership levels are down because of the COVID situation, but they're going to, that wasn't on their team, so they're going to play. And I think he could be good. But my other tight ends I like are more kind of wait and see options. I think, we got to look at Robert Tonyan here with Green Bay.
There you
go. I mean, he's just,
we were talking about that, and he had three touchdowns and now it's 4 touchdowns in 3 weeks. He had 3 touchdowns in a row. He has 2 touchdowns tonight already. And again,
against me, by the way,
we talked about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's doesn't matter who his receivers are. He can have guys off the street come in and he'll throw touchdowns.
Yep. Anyone that's been in fantasy long enough knows the routine. When Aaron Rodgers is playing at this level, you want any piece of that offense you can get. And I do think once Devontae Adams comes back, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, Tanyan's not going to catch 2 touchdowns every single week, but they just don't. They're lacking playmakers. MVS is inconsistent. Lazard's out at least a month, probably more. So yeah, I think Tonyan is legit and worth picking up. And then
I agree. I think Rodgers and him go out drinking every night. I think they're friends, and yeah. I think he has a relationship with this guy, as a friend, and I think he's getting him the ball.
And the other guy I would say that's kind of a similar situation in terms of having upside, but you don't know exactly how it's going to play out is Mo Alley-Cox. I mean, the problem with Mo Alley-Cox is that Trey Burton came back this last week, and they really split the snaps between Cox, Burton, and Jack Doyle. So that's like we talked about three-headed committee running back situations before. Now we got a three-headed tight end situation.
Yeah, but did you see the size of this guy?
If there's any team that could make that work, it's the Colts. They throw to the tight end so much.
Oh yeah, there's a guy named Antonio Gates that Rivers went to for a couple years. That wasn't too bad.
And Cox is just a big play waiting to happen. So I kind of feel like it might be hit and miss for a couple weeks here, but eventually I feel like they're going to realize he's the best big play option they have.
No, he's like 6'8". He's a huge guy. He's 6'8".
Well, you also see what he did on a week where he didn't even do that well. He still got a touchdown.
I watched it. I saw it. I saw the touchdown, and I didn't know he played basketball at Virginia Tech. Virginia. What did he play? Not Virginia Tech. Virginia Commonwealth.
I'm always amazed where everybody went.
But he's a huge guy. I mean, he's big.
I will say, I like him better as if you're just kind of not that happy with your starting tight end and you want to stash him for a week and just keep seeing where the story goes. I like that better than just, picking up Cox and putting him right in your lineup, because I do think, you're basically hoping for a touchdown with his current usage. There's a real chance he could just put up a 0. He ran less than 10 pass routes last week.
Oh, he did.
Was targeted like once or twice.
But that's why I actually have somebody. I have somebody else ahead of Mo Alley-Cox. Bless you. I have somebody else ahead of Mo Alley-Cox, and I think you'll like this, Ross, because it's Drew 1-yard sample. I know that Casey called him to, be his breakout, and he only went for 1 yard, 36 inches, but I think he's playing on a good team. He's got that good young quarterback. He could really be a more useful player, I think, than somebody in the Cerberus three-headed monster problem.
No, Sample will be fine. I mean, he'll have you 30, 40 yards. He's not gonna. I mean, he's not consistent. He's one of these guys. Yeah, I agree.
But I agree the role is stable. And, Burrow has been putting up good numbers. I don't know if I'd call the Bengals a good team, but they are a good team for fantasy. I think he has a consistent
I don't think I
role
said
there.
they were a good team, did I?
Check the tape. You did, yeah. But I personally would go probably with Jimmy Graham and Greg Olsen, the oldies but goodies, ahead of Drew Sample, just because with Graham, it's like you are betting on a touchdown, but they really have invested in him, and they're kind of committed to getting him at least 5 or 6 targets every single week, even though he has no, after the catch ability anymore. And Greg Olsen, I mean, God, it's the cheapest ticket into that offense, and
or just pick them both up, and then you've got Jimmy Graham and Greg Olsen makes Jimmy Olsen, and then you can play the Jimmy Olsen Blues,
and then they can play
because you're not going to do very well.
Yeah. In the villain, they can play in the villain tournament and see who wins.
Yeah, this is
exactly
super deep leagues that hopefully you don't have to resort to picking those guys up.
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen didn't even make the NIT. All right, guys, I think it is time for defenses. I mean, my streaming defense is pretty much whoever is playing the Jets. And so you got Arizona as my number one.
They're right at 50% owned in Yahoo. I have them as number 1 too.
Yeah, I felt like it might be a little bit of cheating, but
no. We'll do. I think our rule is 50% and under is what we're saying.
50% and under, unless you're 52%, and then we mentioned Dalton Schultz.
Yeah,
these are the way the rules go. What do you want from me?
I'm actually taking. You're going to laugh. This is why I'm taking them. I don't want any smart comments after I say it. I'm taking the Cowboys defense as 1, just because they're playing the Giants.
A lot of people are saying that.
Just because they're playing the Giants. They're under a lot of scrutiny right now, as we all know. I'm taking the Cowboys because I feel the Giants will turn the ball over and turn the ball over and turn the ball over many times.
I have the Cowboys at 2, so it's not like Dak, I don't really disagree with you.
And Dak will be throwing the ball. They'll be scoring. They're not going to have a lack of scoring against the Giants like some other team did. And I don't think Daniel Jones can keep up with Dak Prescott. That's my theory.
I agree that the Cowboys will win the game, but it's going to be very interesting because I do think Daniel Jones is an okay streamer. Like if in a 2-quarterback league, I wouldn't mind playing Daniel Jones against that Cowboys defense.
He barely has any weapons. He has Golden Tate, who's way over. Who's like over the hill.
Slayton, Evan Ingram, he's got weapons.
Not really. I mean,
I think that the Giants could score some points in that game, but they could also turn the ball over. So then maybe it ends up being Daniel Jones is decent and the Cowboys defense.
Also, I mean, you could have the Cowboys just jump out to a huge lead and then they lose interest and let off a couple touchdowns. I don't think Dallas is a terrible pick at all. I really don't.
Well, the real problem is there's just no good. There's no good streamers this week. I mean, the whole
reality of defenses this year is this, and you guys will agree with me. There's 5 or 6 elite defenses: Baltimore, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis. We talked about, and I might throw in.
Kansas City defense looks pretty.
I was going to say Kansas City just because of their special teams, because Hardman does return punts.
I think you often don't go wrong with New England.
And New England's good too. So, and then after that, there's a huge dip. I mean, points. I mean, the overs are going crazy this year in football. I mean, people are scoring points like it's nothing. It's. I mean, these scores, if you looked at them, are so inflated this year because all the rule changes, protecting the quarterback, protecting the receiver, and
it's because of COVID. Nobody wants to touch anybody.
Well, there's also no.
They're just like, go in. I don't care.
There's also no preseason, so nobody could practice. So these offenses are having their way with defenses. So that all being said, I think you basically just play teams. You pick up defense up that's playing a team that turns the ball over a lot. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, you got to know your rules of your league. I mean, like, for example, the league that I'm the commissioner of, it's been around for 15 years. And what we did with the rules from the very beginning was we changed them a little bit so they emphasize points allowed more than just turnovers. Because I never liked that a defense that gives up, 35 points, but also gets 4 interceptions, has like a good fantasy day. That seems dumb to me. I try to get it to match real life a little bit more. So know the rules of your own league. But generally speaking, the sweet spot for streaming defenses is when you get one of those kind of mid-level defenses, in that 10 to 15 range in fantasy, and they get a good matchup. Then all of a sudden they're a top 5 defense for that week, But this week, unfortunately, all the good matchups are with defenses that are highly owned. So that's why you got to look at teams like Dallas, which is a horrible defense and a good matchup, or the Browns.
I'm going to pick
against
the Browns.
Indianapolis.
See, actually,
Miami.
The Browns are one of my surprise picks.
And the Lions don't play this week. There's a bye week, I think, for the Lions and for there's two teams.
Don't pick up the Lions. They'll score 0 points.
Green Bay, yeah.
Yeah,
Green Bay and the Lions
doesn't play this week, but they're playing right now. It's kind of weird. But I actually have the Browns. And part of the reason is that I think Phillip Rivers has finally hit the wall.
He's actually been awful for a couple of years in a row now. I mean, you watch him play.
Well, but it's been slowly sinking. But I mean, like this last week was like, I think he's going to get benched.
T.Y. Hilton also seems to have fallen off a cliff.
T.Y. Hilton is like, he doesn't even have a touchdown, does he?
He hasn't played me yet. He has
no touchdown.
But I just don't know if he has that like 180-yard, 2-touchdown game in him. No, he's been awful.
The offensive lineman for Kansas City has more touchdowns than T.Y. Hilton. And that's a fact.
Yeah, that Colt
I think one other team to take a chance on,
other than Mo Alley Cox.
I think one other team to take a chance on though is Houston. Jacksonville is hit or miss. They put up decent points, but they're not hugely explosive. Houston's at home. They've got some playmakers.
And they'll rally around new head coach Romeo Crennel.
Oh, is that who they hired?
Well, he's their interim coach.
He's the interim coach. Yeah.
I changed my pick. If Romeo Crennel is on the sideline, no. I'm going with Dallas.
Traumatized Browns fans speaking.
No.
No more.
Romeo Crennel. There would be a bad play, and you'd look over at Romeo and be like, Romeo, are you upset about this? And he looked like he was like in the middle of a math test or something. He just was like confused, didn't know what was happening. The worst. He makes me want to move on to kickers immediately.
Let's talk kickers. Now, do you guys know who the leading kicker with points is in the National Football League?
Is it your guy on the Bengals?
Yeah, Bullock.
Yeah.
He has the most points, and he's only picked up in like 10% of the leagues. It's like some crazy low number.
Yeah, but who are they playing this week?
Bizarre.
Doesn't matter. I'm just telling you about kickers. It's like you can pick like Blankenship's number 2. He's a number 2 leading scorer. He's barely like 40%. He's not.
Yeah. When I
just cut him to make room for somebody.
I forgot about their other great playmaker, their kicker. He is a playmaker.
So Blankenship's available. He's never missed an extra point in college or in the pros, which is an unbelievable stat.
Yeah, I have him number 1. Just every year there's certain teams that they're usually these teams that don't put up a ton of points, but they're not awful, and they just settle for a ton of field goals. Their coaches are kind of conservative in how they handle it. And it seems like the Colts are one of those teams this year. They got a great defense. They're content to just take the 3 points all the time. So, for that reason, Blankenship keeps having a big game. So, he kind of breaks my rule. I'm not as concerned about his
Blankenship's my number 1 because the Bengals are playing in Baltimore, which is not a great matchup for any team.
They could end up going for 2 all the time because they're way behind.
Oh, the Bengals, yeah.
Yeah, the Bengals, and then I like the kicker. He had a lot of points this week as Sanders for Miami. He actually looked pretty good, and no one has. Like
I could see that.
Like 1% of the
league.
But
who's Miami playing? I'm not remembering.
Who they play, Andrew?
Listen, my problem. Whoever Miami's playing, my problem with I don't like to pick up a kicker where they could get shut out. I just you need some points.
Well, Fitzpatrick's playing well. I like Fitzpatrick this year. I like the beard. I like the look.
I'm going after Blankenship's my number 1. I'll go with Boswell with the Steelers, who are back. I mean, he's just a kicker that generally will get you some points.
Bosmel. I just called him Bosmel. Or also Bosmel. And
then I was thinking, before we came on here, I was thinking I would go with whoever ends up being the kicker for the Falcons, whether it's Younghoe Koo or Elliott Fry.
Koo's out longer.
It's Fry.
But just given how their offense looks tonight, I'm sorry.
And they're gonna be tired, so they're just gonna give in to field goals.
And the other kicker I like, who's been kicking great, is Carson for the Raiders. He's been
Carlson,
Carlson. Yeah. He's been great. Yeah. I mean, he has.
I worry about Sebastian Janikowski coming in and taking the job.
I just always don't want to. I never want to play a kicker on a team where I could see them being down by like 3 touchdowns.
That's true.
It's just like then they're not going to kick field goals. They're not even going to kick extra points. They're going to go for 2 all the time. I mean, my other picks are guys that I just generally like. Badgley with the Chargers and Suckup with the Bucks. I think those guys are pretty solid low end kickers to use every single week.
Yeah, so what I'm doing with my team is I'm dropping Zane Gonzalez. I really don't believe in the Arizona offense much right now. I'm really upset with them. I don't think they're playing well. I'm picking up Blankenship for the Colts this week. That's my play for
Blankenship. I think at this point you want to pick him up and play him as often as possible.
I think I am going to pick him up.
Cut him in a trade.
You sunk my Blankenship.
I love his name. I love his look. He's been consistent. He's never missed an extra point. So that's what Ross the Boss is doing. He's dropping Zane Gonzalez, even though he went to Arizona State. I'm dropping him, and I'm picking up Blankenship. He went to Georgia, right? I think. Is that right?
You're right. This is like the preacher. The preacher Georgia, asking some sinner.
So it's with kickers.
You're the one who knows.
Again, my philosophy with kickers, I don't mind dropping them and adding them every week. For me, I think they're expendable unless you have Tucker or there's a few guys that I do like. But
Blankenship could be one of those guys.
He could. But I still like.
I still am with you.
Kicker during the week and go for hope there's don't hope there's an injury, but be prepared in case there's an injury in the Thursday night game. Have the backup running backs there every week. And if there's some news going on in the week, a guy's questionable, maybe you want to stash. Like last week, we didn't know if Joe Mixon was going to play. So holding Gio Bernard in that situation made sense. That kind of thing. Okay,
so we gave all our picks in waiver wire. Let's pick what player is going to have the biggest week in the waiver wire. That we all talked about. Like, who do you think will have the biggest
week coming up?
Of the
people who we said to pick up?
Yeah.
My number one priority pickup is Chase Edmonds. I just think he's the one guy. Like, this isn't necessarily the most exciting week for waivers, but he's the one guy I could see at the end of the year saying he made that.
I think he is the number one pickup. I agree with you. He's the number one pickup.
So Chase is one. Who's number two?
But see, Ross, you were asking a different question. I
know, but I'm just curious now because when I do my waiver wire, I'm usually have like 4 or 5.
I think it's Ernest Johnson. I know Andrew doesn't think so, but I think the Browns are going to always want to go with two running backs. Ernest goes to the end zone. I don't even remember how he talked, so I can't.
Now the reason
what I mean, Vern?
See, mine's going to be Ernest Johnson because I do have Chubb in one of my leagues, so I'm going to pick up the Ernest, hoping that he'll take Chubb's place in the lineup.
I'm going to quote Ernest. I say this to my daughter all the time too. This is another Ernest quote for you. That is how I feel about Ernest Johnson.
I'm hoping he can pick. But
I was all over him even before he did this.
So I'm going to take Ernest as being the high point leader of all these people. You guys are all taking Chase Edmonds, is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to take Chase Edmonds, but
I
think
watch Justin Jackson too. Watch for Justin Jackson because he might come and steal that job.
You can only pick one, so I'm taking Ernest.
I'm taking Edmonds.
And Dan has Edmonds.
No, you know what? I'm going to stick to my guns. Andrew is very persuasive. He often he gets me to do all kinds of things. No, I think Chase Edmonds. I will go. He's making the logical pick that he is more likely to be the season winner. So I would actually pick him up first. Yeah. But this week it's Ernest Johnson all the way. I think he's going to have a
this week. It's Damian Harris.
Damian Harris, I wouldn't pick up if you paid me money. And it's not because of him, it's because of Belichick. I just don't trust anybody.
Well, if Sony Michel was on the
new Lucifer,
wire, would you pick him up? If
no,
Sony Michel was
I would not pick him up.
I probably wouldn't.
No,
I'd pick up
not now that he's on IR. But I'm saying
I wouldn't pick
at the beginning of the season,
Sony Michel wouldn't be picked.
If I picked him up, I would just trade him immediately. I'm not going to sit with a Patriot running back on my team.
I would not be.
I mean, he's got value, but
I'd rather have Brian Hill. That's me.
Oh, I totally agree.
So
for upside,
that's our show.
That's our show. So
I think we prepared everybody.
So we have to subscribe to this show, right? Is that how it works? How does the show work?
As I understand it, you can subscribe to this show. I was not aware, so I'm gonna go do that soon. Probably sometime within a week. You go to this thing called YouTube. You click subscribe. And then there's this bell thing, and it tells you, it notifies you. I think there's actually a human being who just sits around looking for the bell.
So subscribe to the Hub. It's a great show. It's a great. We have a great guest coming up in the next week. We have some very funny comedians coming up that are very famous.
I cannot wait.
That you guys will be very excited to hear, and they both are big football fans. So we have great shows coming up. Please subscribe. I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking waiver wire with you, cowboy.
Pick up Ernest.
She found me in bed. lying with a blanket over my head. She asked if she could see who was under the blanket with me. I said, you don't want to find. It is Hideki Matsui in my